Is it really safer if we compartmentalize everything in our life? Or does it actually inhibit us from showing up as our whole selves? Well, that's what I'm going to be diving into today and sharing my own personal story of what compartmentalizing has done in my life. Um, and the interesting thing, like, I just want to start this off by saying that compartmentalization of your life actually is applauded by society, by the world, because it looks like you're extremely organized. It looks like no matter what area of your life you're in, like you've got your stuff together, right? But the truth is, compartmentalization is an effort, a grasp for control, um, is a self-protection mechanism. And I'll tell you, so the reason that I did this, and like I didn't do this intentionally. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to keep everything in my life separated into compartments because that's safer for me. No, like it was something that I think over time, is how I responded to different hurts, traumas, stressors. And it helped me to keep the pain or the tension or the overwhelm or whatever, like the feelings to a minimum, like and organized, right? And so, and I think also along with that, it was along these lines of, well, if I can have more control in one area. And also, if I lose control in that area, or if I experience hurt or loss or devastation, it will not devastate me as a whole. And so, therefore, it was a safety response, right? Because, when you are experiencing chronic overwhelm, tension, stress over time, you're literally living in this heightened state of your fear response. Okay. And so you need to understand, and like this is where I find our brain so fascinating, but we have something called the RAS, it's the reticular activating system. And that is like our primal brain that controls our fight, flight, freeze, fawn is another one. Our response when we are afraid of something, right? Something and it is perceived threat, right? Like it's not typically today an actual threat to our safety. It's more perceived threats. Like if you're terrified of public speaking and right now you think of a bad experience you had where maybe you went up to public speak, maybe it was in your Com 101 class or because I remember sitting in my Com 101 class and I've never had a problem getting up in front of people and talking. I actually thoroughly enjoy it. It gives me life. Like I love it. Yeah, I feel nerves around it, but not in the paralyzing way, but more in like exciting. Like for me, I've channeled that into excitement instead of fear. Because they actually feel the same in your body, fear and excitement. Your body can't tell the difference. And so just a simple mindset shift of like, I feel so excited to do this. But anyways, nonetheless, I'm getting off track there. If you think about the experience you had, the negative experience you had with something, say public speaking, where you got up on that stage and you were so terrified and you froze or you puked or who knows, like something happened and now you have an experience around it. And so from that experience, because we assign meaning, like we try to make things make sense around us, right? And so we assign meaning. And so in that moment, you were like, public speaking is the worst, and I'm a terrible public speaker. I don't ever want to do this again, right? And so now just thinking about that memory, that experience you've had, your palms can start to sweat, your heart can start to race, you can start to feel that like unsettled feeling in your tummy, right? Like your skin may start to get kind of red and blotchy. Like I remember sitting in my Com 101 class and like some kids that would get up, kids, I guess college kids would get up to speak and it's like they would immediately turn red from like head to toe and like you could just see physically how uncomfortable they were. And so when we think of our reticular activating system, our RAS, it is that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. It's our stress response when we sense a potential threat. Okay. But it's usually perceived. And so that part of our brain is not a conscious thinking, rational part of our brain. It's a responsive part. And so that's why I love mindset work, because we can, if we have awareness around it, like I said, my little trick for, I'm so excited to get up to public speak because my body can't tell the difference in the feeling. Just that little shift has helped me to channel that into a positive direction, because I do love public speaking. I love the energy it brings. I love being on a stage, or, you know, behind a podium teaching, you know, whatever capacity it is. So when we think of this compartmentalization, essentially what had happened, what I had done over my life was I had experiences in different areas of my life, whether that was being a mom, being a wife, being a business owner, being a friend, just being a woman in general. You know, I had experiences with those different areas. And so keeping them all separate helped me to feel like I had control. It helped me to not experience complete and total devastating loss, because it was just one area after all, right? It helped me to ignore my feelings for a while, at least. I've been on a journey now for the last couple of years, really tuning into feelings, on different, like emotionally, physically, right now in this season, really holistically, like in how the damage essentially that I caused to my body by ignoring different emotions that I was feeling in each of those areas. And so that self compartmentalization really kept me from being whole me, not holy, 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 WHOLLY, right? Like wholeness. And because of that, you know, I've just recently working with a holistic coach, I've seen how it makes sense, right? It makes total sense why I did that, because I've experienced different things that were painful in different areas of my life. And what I thought, you know, I didn't think about it. It was just living in a stressful situation. So the work that I've been doing has been helping me to see, first of all, that compartmentalizing my life does not allow me to show up as whole me, wholeness of myself, like, but also being able to recognize when I have an emotional response, and, you know, twofold, being able to tune into my body of like, where am I feeling this and what do I need right now? But then also tapping into the conscious, like rational thinking part of my brain, and essentially talking my body, talking the Raz off the ledge, and back into that conscious thinking brain, and realizing that, okay, I am feeling this thing, right? Like I'm having this emotional response, right? Like I'm, you know, so just the other day, I like woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, just consumed with thoughts of like, okay, the investments I've made, like I still have to pay those off. And I was just overwhelmed by that feeling. And then like the next day, I got, you know, I had money coming into my account, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of like, oh my gosh, like this is stressful, this is scary, I don't feel comfortable right now. And so my coach helped me work through this, because at the end of the day, it really wasn't about the money. Because even after I had walked through and I had, you know, paid all the things, I had given God my first fruits, you know, tithes to the church, like, and still had extra money, right? Like there was enough money. There was actually more than enough, right? And so it wasn't the money itself that was triggering an emotional response within me. It was more of an experience I've had with money in the past. Now, could I pinpoint a specific time? I don't know if I could. I probably could if I really sat down and thought about it, but it doesn't matter. The point is, she helped me to recognize that I was having an emotional response in my body, and what my body needed and my brain to get out of that act, like that stress response, was, because here's what I did. So this triggered me to frantically start deleting emails. because it was something that I could quickly control. I could quickly see a response, like a result. And I was laughing at myself as I'm doing this because I'm fully like in the moment acknowledging like I am frantically deleting emails right now because I know that this is a grasp for comfort and safety. And so from that, I was able to see that, I'm having an emotional response right now. And what I needed to do is I needed to create safety within my body of, I understand that we've had experiences around this, but right now in this moment, we're safe and we don't have to make a decision right this second. I didn't have to go and immediately move all my money right away, like where I needed to, like whether it was paying bills or tithing or, whatever, like moving it around to cover, some of my business expenses for the month, but just in that moment, like even just telling myself, like, you're safe right now. Like you can have this emotion and we can also release it. We don't need to store it. We don't need to ignore it. We don't need to avoid it. Like we can feel it and then we can move on. And that was, I think, one of the biggest things. I was doing some coaching with this holistic coach today, and we were talking a little bit through just the whole process of recognizing emotional prompts and then creating that safety for ourselves. Because, as someone who is very much a doer, she has quickly identified in me that, when I am triggered, I immediately want to do something. Like I want to figure it out. I want to fix it. I want to do something. And that creates like that, I got to do something, like creates, like you can just hear in my voice, like that creates tension, that creates overwhelm. It creates like this like out of control grasping feeling within myself. It creates a very high speed breakneck pace that is not sustainable and does not feel good. Like, does it feel good to check boxes and get crap done? Yeah, but at what expense, right? And that's me. Like that's what I've been saying lately. Like at what expense? And if you are the expense, it's time to step back and do a little bit more digging into that. And so what she said to me today, that it was just totally like mind blowing to me, was that, doing this inner work is not going to all of a sudden make you not have any of these, stress triggers, responses, emotional, feelings and whatever, like, but what it's going to do is it is going to get you into the practice and the habit of recognizing them when you're feeling them, and immediately, instead of moving into this do, instead just, sitting for a few minutes, even like even just a few seconds of, just breathing, saying, okay, I'm feeling some anxiety around this. I'm feeling some tension. I'm feeling some overwhelm. I'm feeling out of control. I know that I'm having a stress response right now, like grasping for results in this. Typically it's either cleaning or deleting emails or shopping or eating, right? Like those are my big ones, or like totally just checking out and like Netflix and binging, those kinds of things. Anyway, and being able to just hold space for myself, like, which is so ironic because I'm a coach, right? And I hold space for others and I do it very well. But holding space for myself is something I am learning to do. But it's been so helpful. It's helped me to slow down so much. If you didn't catch it, last week's episode about the 3-train lesson about pace, and where I'm at in that journey, it's just helped me to release so much tension and control. And it was interesting because today when I woke up, and like it was even kind of started last night, like I was starting to really get this tension in the back of my neck, like it was like right where your skull attaches to the back of your neck. And and so we were having some conversations today, and I was like, okay, so is this tension something that's like physical, like, or is it my body, bringing up some other suppressed emotions that I've had that I need to, work through? Like, is it emotional? Is it physical? Like, is it kind of a combination of both? Is it because I've eaten more gluten lately and I'm having some inflammation? Like, what is it? And really just tapping into my body and being like, okay, like I'm here, like what's going on? And I think it really was for me today, it was really a physical response. Like it was a physical area that needed addressing. And I think yesterday I had recorded a workout, and sometimes when I'm recording a workout, I will and it's probably because I'm like working and I'm trying to breathe and talk at the same time, but I will put tension in other parts of my body, like my neck and my shoulders, without being aware of it. Whereas I wouldn't do that if I wasn't recording a video, right? And so I think because of that, like this was my body prompting me that, like, okay, listen, like you need to slow down today physically and actually address the tension that's in between your shoulder blades, that's rolling up into your neck, because we have this muscle that runs from our neck down into, like, if you think of like your shoulder blade, like if you put your arm behind your back and then that part of your shoulder blade that pokes out and it's kind of like a rectangle, there's a muscle that runs down through that, that when it gets tense lower, that tension pulls and will create more tension in your neck, especially where your neck attaches to your skull, that area. So yeah, so I know this. So today I sat outside in the sun for a while, like just checking in, like kind of going through that, is this emotional? Is this physical? Is this something else? And I sat in the sun, like, and just like tuned into my body and like felt the warmth, actually hot of the sun on my skin and warming me up, and but not so hot that it was uncomfortable. And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna get out my foam roller and I'm going to do some work. And it was crazy, like immediately as I like laid on the foam roller and like rolled up my spine, like there was something on my right side where most of the tension is, that popped. I think it was probably a rib, because sometimes when I have a tendency for ribs to kind of slip out of place, for some reason, like in the middle of my back. I don't even know like where it is, but yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm like, well, that feels like immediately a little bit better, right? It was like these degrees of feeling better. And so then I just, I did some foam rolling and did some movement through it, like did some stretching. And it was probably like 5 minutes maybe. And like I felt so much better. Like I still have, like I can still feel some tension like in my neck and shoulders. It's kind of like if you've ever had a really bad headache, like the next day, like you don't have a headache anymore, but you can just feel like that dullness of like, oh yeah, like there was some heavy stuff there. And it could also be because I did some foam rolling, like a release of toxins that need to be worked out of my body kind of thing. So anyways, but it's that process. It's that like tuning in. And so all of this like work to bring awareness around like what is going on in my body, right? Like I was joking the other day that I do wonder, because I have such a very high tolerance for pain, like would my daily level of pain that I just ignore, like right now, do I have pain in my neck and shoulder? Yeah, like if I actually sit here and think about it right now, I don't want to sit and dwell on it, because dwelling on it's going to make it worse, right? Because I've done the work that I needed to do for it, and I'm not ignoring it. I've addressed it. So with the compartments of my life, like the different hats that I wear, if you will, it was much easier to ignore things. But when you look at me as a whole person and you look at yourself as a whole person, it almost is like with compartmentalization, the compassion is much lower, because it's almost as if you're not even really dealing with a person or considering yourself as a person, because you're considering yourself on a subconscious level as just parts. And so when I realized this, that I was doing this, comparing this with the work that I'm doing with not ignoring what's going on in my body. And that's the train. The train was, from what I've ignored over the years, I do wonder if, like, would it kill a normal person with a level of pain that, at points in my life I experienced on a daily basis, but just totally ignored? Probably. And like, that's a crazy thing to think about. But when you tie this back into compartmentalization, it's like, okay, I've got pain in this area and I've got pain in this area, but it's like not the whole person. So it's not as overwhelming and there's much more control there, right? Whereas if you step back and you're like, I'm Chelsey, I'm whole and me, and I'm not just like all these parts, but like I'm like everything together. And all of the pain comes together, right? Like that can be really overwhelming. And and that's where my response was, okay, I got to fix this. I got to figure it out. Like, okay, I got to do this work and then I can move on. And really though, it's just like mindset. Like it's a daily practice. It's not like a do it once. I mean, yes, some of the original like tensions and like areas of your body keeping score, right? Your body remembering, like, yes, there was some initial work we worked through with that. And I know we still have more to do in that area, but like, most of the work, especially with identifying and expressing emotions, is a daily practice, right? It's like something we're going to do our whole life and we will get better and it will become more natural. But it's really easy to think like, oh, I just got to check this box, right? And then everything will go better. And I was approaching it in like, okay, I'm feeling stuck in my business in the sense of like, I'm doing all the things and I know all the things, but and just like I shared in episodes past, it was like I was forcing myself to show up a certain way, right? In my business compartment, no matter how I was feeling, no matter what else was going on in any of the other areas that I had compartmentalized. And it was blocking me from having the results, right? Like it wasn't a mindset thing, it was a physical body thing, and also a suppressed emotions thing and ignoring pain and all that, like, right? Like, so it was like these other facets that I just hadn't ever worked through before or had anyone speak that into my life. And so that was huge for me. Like all of this work that I've been doing has been like so huge. Like like I've said, I feel so much lighter. I feel like I'm me. Like, I don't feel like I have to have all the answers. I don't feel like I need to show up a certain way. And like, it's not like magic. Like just yesterday, I was on a coaching call with my 10X mentor, and just going into that call, like I just didn't want to get on it. And it was because, a lot of times especially when it comes to business, it's like, you're not going to feel like it some days, but you got to do it anyways, right? Like if you're a business owner. And so along that lines, and also seeking validation by having the right answers or knowing the right answers or whatever, like, it was totally, but because now I'm aware of like what's going on in my head and my body, it's like, I know this isn't right, but it was probably a moment where I should have said, like, let's reschedule this call because, my right now I'm going to show up in a way that is very much seeking your validation as my coach, and very much like, look what I did, but I don't feel like I'm in a space right now to really focus on it. And I can do other things. I don't know. It was good though. I mean, when I did show up, there were some things we talked through, and yeah, so like that was good. So it's kind of like, this is the other thing, like I've been working on, that I tend to be very like black or white, very like this or that, like right and wrong. Like I am very like polarized because I'm so belief driven. And just being able to recognize when there are some things that like don't need to be so black and white, don't need to be so all or nothing. And that is one area I'm still working on. So there'll probably be an episode about that later. Oh, I just realized there's like a kid in my background. Whoops. I might have to edit that out somehow. So that might be something that will be coming that I'll be sharing about as I walk through that part of my journey. I mean, essentially this podcast has turned into my journey. And hopefully the things that I'm learning, the things that I'm growing in will resonate with you and help you to have a free resource where you can also grow in these things, and take bits and pieces and take the things that you need and leave the things that you don't. But yeah, it's been a good journey. I feel like I've been so much more confident in making decisions just because I can, if that makes sense. Like not just making decisions for the sake of it, but like, so for example, Zach is taking me to a military ball, and we've done like dining outs and things, and they were like the Army Reserves engineered, whatever, like, and so this is actually like active Army. So this will be my first like real, like official big thing. Anyway, and so I was looking for a dress, and I don't know, when I was looking, like a lot of times I would filter even what I was going to wear through like what is going to look good, like what is everyone else going to be wearing, like what are they going to think, like all those things. And this time when I was dress shopping, I was just like, I like that, I want that, that's different, but I like it. Like, and there was one dress that I picked, so I picked like 3 different dresses because they were having a big sale, but they're all red, to appease my husband, because I was like, oh, everyone always wears red, and he's like, yeah, but that's an engineer only thing, and this is like an all Army. So he was like, you got to wear red, and I'm like, awesome, like I look good in red, I like red, like red feels powerful, red feels confident, red feels strong, right? So anyways, but one of the dresses I picked, like it's so funny because all 3 of these are like very different. So one of them is very like it has like a bodice, but it's like very romantic with like a little bit of edgy sexy to it, and immediately like flirty, and immediately I was like, yes, like I love that, like that to me like just seems to like capture my personality, I guess. Especially like that flirty, fun, edgy, a little bit of rebel, a lot of rebel in me. And then the second one I picked is actually, it's a red jumpsuit that's like, and I was like, oh boy, I don't know. We'll see. That's a pretty bold move because it's not the traditional, but there's a lot of rebel in me. And I was like, ooh, I kind of like that because it's like, it's different. And it's not going to be like everyone else. And it's not just for the sake of standing out, but it was like, I like it. And so anyway, so I'm excited to try that one. And the other one was more of like, a little bit like cutie, flirty, like romantic, but it's not long. So I don't know if I'm going to go with that because it's going to be in February or March. I don't know. So it's going to be cold. But I thought, oh, that would be a great one for any kind of ceremonies he has, like when he promotes in rank and just whatever between the here's and there's, right? I just thought, oh, that'd be so good. Anyway, but it was just through this whole process, typically where I've said like, oh, well, people think like, will people like that? Like, will that look good on me? It was more like, that'll look good on me and I really like it, right? Or like, I really like that and it'll look good on me, right? Instead of filtering it through like, how are people going to receive me in my military compartment? Like, no, it's just me. Like, I'm Chelsey and I'm going to show up the same way I show up in every other area of my life. A little bit different, a little bit edgy, a little bit flirty, fun, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, so I hope that this episode really resonated with you, especially if you have been unconsciously compartmentalizing your life, and just that through listening to this you'll have that realization I had of like, oh, like I understand why I've been doing this because I've experienced different pain in different areas of my life, and this makes sense. Like, of course I would do these things because I'm protecting myself and I'm in a stress response, and those kinds of things. And that from this, it will also give you hope and also just show you that like you are a whole person too, and the world needs you to show up as your whole self, right? That God has been growing and that God created and God wants to use, right? Like, He is your protector. He is your security. He is your significance. He is your safety, just as He is mine. And we don't need to play small or protect ourselves. We need to recognize that we are doing that. And then we need to step into this wholeness of who He created us to be and who He's made us, and that healing that comes from Him, along with this journey of wholeness and getting rid of the vitamin container compartmentalization of our lives in an effort to protect ourselves from total devastation, right? So that we can, boldly make decisions, that we can confidently help people, right? I always tell my daughters that the sign of a confident woman is someone who lifts others up, who doesn't need to tear others down to make herself feel better. Like, that is what we do when we are confident and whole in who we are, who God made us to be. And also that just because we're whole doesn't mean we're perfect, right? That we're just committed to growth and committed to, just like Isaiah, I'm here, God, send me, right? Like, that's us. So if you found this episode encouraging, challenging, eye-opening, share it with a friend, leave me a review. I would love to hear, did you just have a big aha too, like I've been having? And if so, what is it? And if you want to learn more about one-on-one coaching with me, all the information is in the show notes. That is something I would love to do with you, because as the coach who is committed to getting coached all the time, right now I have 3 different coaches for 3 different things. That's not compartmentalizing my coaches. That's just different areas I can help with. But I would love to do that for you. I just had one of my clients this week. She's like, I love your strengths-based strategy approach, because she's like, I feel like you've taught me how to speak my love language in my business and in my life. And I was like, wow, like that is amazing, because that is what I'm all about. Like, us building businesses that don't look like everyone else, that don't look like, so-and-so who's super successful, because they're not us and we're not them. And our business is going to look differently, and it needs to look differently, right? Like, if our business looks like everyone else's, then why would someone want to work with us over someone else, right? Like, your business can totally look like you, feel like you, it can get results with ease, and it can feel good and aligned in how you're showing up. I just did Brains and Gains, which is my new Instagram live trainings that I've been doing every week. I just did one today specifically on the strength of empathy and different things to embrace, different things to avoid. And just doing those things, like, still moves the needle forward, and actually a little faster, because it feels better and it's more fun, right? But also, like, it helps you to avoid the things that give you the ick, because when you have the ick in business, which comes from a copy paste mentality of just doing what someone else who's successful is doing, it's not good. Like, eventually you will not be able to force it anymore, and you're going to start questioning yourself about everything. You're going to start feeling that sense of overwhelm, like you don't know what to do or where to start. And you're going to get the ick. And you don't have to have the ick, because you can build your business in a way that looks like you and not someone else. So hope you guys had a great day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.